So let's talk a little bit about the modern luxury consumer. First of all, the modern luxury consumer cares about two very important issues: personalization and customization. Companies need to focus on this heavily today. The important thing to understand is that they're not the same thing. We talk to a lot of groups, a lot of companies, and it kind of gets mixed up. So first of all, personalization. This means you're making the effort to get to know the customer. You're getting to know what's important to them, who's important, and what's important. When you know these two things, you create that feeling of connection with somebody, and you start to show up and show that you care. Once you do that, then customization can start happening. You can start making recommendations, personal recommendations that's about them. There's a saying that if it's not about me, it's not for me. And that really typifies the modern luxury consumer today. So again, is your company focused on personalizing, making that connection, knowing what and who's most important to your customers, and then starting to customize and make these personal recommendations? Because our consumers crave that. The other thing to know about our consumers is that they see themselves as very hardworking, they see themselves as very smart. As a result, when they make major purchases, they're really creating or buying rewards for themselves. Now, the products or services that you offer, that's probably a reward. But is the experience of buying that product or service rewarding? You see, a lot of consumers today would say that the process of purchasing is actually quite painful. It's actually a waste of their time, and that's why you're starting to see the online consumerism grow to its higher level, and it's only going to continue to be so. When it comes to the consumer experience, you've got to make sure it's pain-free. Are you easy to do business with? Again, are you a good use of their time? Or are you painful? Are you a poor use of their time? Because if so, consumers are going to start to go in a different direction. Because the use of their time is an absolute critical aspect, because it's our most valuable resource today. When you think about the modern luxury consumer, think about who that consumer is. Today, we're seeing a large number of millennials now start to really drive consumer influence. We call that the millennial attitude. Again, it's about the environment, it's about sustainability. It's about being cost conscious, looking for smart deals. It's about utilizing the internet to be able to really find transparency and get a great deal. We're also seeing a lot of ethnicity, greater ethnicity than ever before, and that's important because our consumer says authenticity, dealing with people that are real and can connect with them, is really important. Think about your workforce today. Think about the people that are talking to your consumers. Do they have that type of breadth of diversity that you're seeing in your customers? Are you allowing like-minded people to interact with them? Because that's an important part of the buying process. And we also have to think about today that the modern female is now such a powerful part of influencing consumer, whether it's the largest, making the largest purchasing decisions out of the household, or the professional female now buying her own rewards, not relying on someone else to buy it for her. At the end of the day, are we meeting the expectations of these groups? See, this is what we think about all the time. And then the other thing to think about when it comes to the modern consumer is this idea of feedback. Whether we like it or not, the modern consumer loves to search for feedback. In fact, feedback mechanisms have now become one of the mainstays of what the internet is used for. Whether you look up for feedback, where you look for reviews, or you're giving feedback yourself. You see, the modern consumer loves sharing information with their friends. Feedback, insights, opinions. Not only their real friends, but their perceived friends as well. The ones that you have on Facebook that you've probably never seen for 25 years, but there's still that perceived connection. You see, that leads us to a very important point about the modern consumer, and an important point about your company. You see, the modern consumer is now really driving this whole idea of online and social media reputation. Coming from the hotel business 10 years ago, well, I remember I was part of it. I was one of those ones that were telling the general managers, telling people. And you see, that leads to a really important part about modern consumerism. How important is social media reputation to you? Listen, 10 years ago, I was part of the hotel business. I was one of those people telling everybody, oh, those people that write on TripAdvisor, don't pay attention to them. Again, they're negative, they're miserable, they don't mean anything. They're not truthful people. And yet today, TripAdvisor is now the most important thing influencing hospitality stays anywhere in the world. If you're still fighting the fact that your online social reputation, what people say about you online, if you're still fighting the fact that it's valid, you're fighting a losing battle. It's absolutely critical. And yet, we see many companies not paying attention to it. They're not managing it. They're still laughing at it and say, those people don't matter. Well, in today's world, they do matter. And they're the single biggest driver now of where your consumers are learning about you and deciding whether or not to buy from you. The funny part is, you don't even recognize it or pay enough attention to it to realize how important it is. Social online reputation is critical to your business. Why? Because it's critical to today's modern day consumer.